This episode of the Alpha Nerds podcast brought to you by Sponch. It beats a hard kick to the face.
Welcome back to the Alpha Nerds podcast, the only podcast that's illegal in Uzbekistan. I'm Bart.
And I'm Pete.
And every week we talk about a movie or a TV show or whatever catches our fancy, as long as it starts with a single letter of the alphabet. And this week says W!
W!
Wild Wild West. Weird Wonderful World of...
Weeboos.
Weeboo... No. Walruses. How you going, Pete?
Weeb walruses. I'm pretty good. How you doing, Bart?
I'm doing pretty good. So as always, we have 5 honorable mentions from each of us before we get to the meat of the podcast. So Pete, let's kick it off with yours. What do you got first?
First off, I got Wonder Woman.
Ooh.
Probably. It's honestly like a 3-way tie between her, Batman, and the Wally West Flash for favorite DC superhero.
You mean second favorite DC superhero? Or no, you said Batman. Wait, really?
Yeah, dude, I love Batman. He's like the one I would most want to be given the opportunity. Wonder Woman is just holy shit amazing, and Wally West is just so fucking relatable.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Wayne and Wally West also start with W, so...
Next, I have The World's End, the last part of the Cornetto trilogy, where it's just a bunch of buddies on a bar crawl versus a robot alien invasion.
I haven't seen this one. I've heard good things, but I haven't seen this one.
So The World's End, last part of the Cornetto trilogy, basically just a bunch of buddies on a bar crawl versus a hostile alien robot invasion. And it's hilarious and great. It starts off super depressing. Holy shit. This guy... It starts off with, a backstory being told by a guy who's in, an AA meeting. And it's just so sad. And, wanting to recapture the glory days of, that one awesome night where he and his friends went out drinking a whole bunch. He tries to get the band back together, and everybody else has gone on to, live a life and, make something of themselves. And, one guy's a successful real estate agent. The other guy is running his dad's car company. I think it's a dealership, but I can't quite remember. And the main character has just stagnated. He has done nothing. And it's sad. And then the movie starts kicking into beast mode when there's this bathroom fight that ends up with what would have been a fatality if it was a human.
Okay, I get you. See, I never watched this one. I keep getting it confused with the Seth Rogen film that came out around the same time.
This is the end.
Yeah, this is the end versus World's End versus...
Well, it doesn't really have the same premise, because This is the End focuses on, a whole biblical apocalypse that just so happens to take place the same night as a big party that's being thrown by James Franco.
Is it actually, the James Franco, or is it just...
It's actually James Franco, yeah.
Okay.
This is the End is really fun because it's just, all these comedians just kind of, they're playing themselves. So Craig Robinson is just there being Craig Robinson.
Nice.
But at the same time, it's it's not Craig Robinson. It's okay, act the way you would if the world were actually coming to an end.
Between The End of the World and World's End and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, that series doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
One of those, this movie has nothing to do with the last one. The other two didn't even have pirates. What the heck's going on?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, after that, I have The Witch, which is this movie. It didn't get a whole lot of fanfare, but I got it because one of the reviews said, "This feels like something I shouldn't be seeing."
Huh.
And I was like, okay, Okay, Curiosity hits like a solid 8 right now, so yeah, I'll see that. And it basically takes place during like Salem witch trial era, like Puritan villages and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this family is basically being plagued by this like witch who, first off, steals their baby.
Yeah, that's not
I
good.
mean, you don't actually see the witch steal the baby, but like this one girl is like playing peekaboo with the baby, and then she like she puts her hands over her face, and then she's about to do the whole peekaboo thing, and then she does, and the baby's gone.
Oh, shoot.
Just gone. And then, like, a couple of scenes later, we see the baby on this witch's counter who lives in this, like, wooded thicket sort of cottage sort of thing, and you know nothing good is about to happen to that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then we don't see a baby, and then we see the witch using some sort of butter churn looking thing. Yep. And now the witch has, like, silky smooth skin.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that baby did.
Yeah. So is it more like your body horror type gross out stuff, like the
See,
Fly?
you don't actually see like any body horror whatsoever. It's just deeply unsettling.
Okay.
Like the way they shoot this movie is actually really good. And yeah, it really impressed me because a lot of movies try and go the whole way where it's like a lot of horror movies try and do the whole show don't tell thing, so they try and make things as gruesome as possible, and that's why we get things like Saw and Hostel and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But The Witch sets up such a good atmosphere and such good pacing that you actually feel dread.
Oh, nice. That sounds really cool.
It's really tough to do, especially like, you know, given the temptation to just like do jump scares and shit.
Yeah.
But dude, it's awesome, and we actually get like a little bit of communication with Satan in it. Ah, it's fun.
Nice.
Yeah, and the ending, like, I don't want to spoil the ending, but whew, it's satisfying.
Nice.
So, after that, I've got Watchmen.
Fantastic comic series.
Fantastic comic book series. I say also a really good movie. You've never seen it?
No, I haven't. I probably never will.
That's just...
It is written by one of my favorite screenwriters, David Hayter. Or like half co-written by him, because they merged his script and another guy's script. Now,
granted, it is directed by Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder is a bad word around these parts. But this is not the Suicide Squad Zack Snyder. This is not Batman v Superman Zack Snyder. This is Zack Snyder before I think he sold his soul.
Zack Snyder didn't direct, did he?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think he did. I will verify.
It's got his like fucking dick germs all over it.
See, okay, one thing about this that's kind of cool is we're talking about this the week after we talked about V for Vendetta, which is another Alan Moore thing.
Yes.
Directed by a man named David Ayer. So, not directed by Zack Snyder.
Ah.
Same guy who... Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He wrote Training Day. He didn't direct Training Day.
Ah. Anyway. So, Watchmen, I thought it was really good. And I thought the casting was really, really well done. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, they changed from what I have heard about it, is that they changed the major twist at the end of the comic. Probably to make it more streamlined. I could see, like, there are good reasons to do that, because the aliens in New York thing, like, is kind of weird and out of left field.
Kind of is, yeah.
But, I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, so, last but not least, my fifth honorable mention is Wicked. And this also features a witch.
Yes.
But it's one of those sort of twisted fairy tale things where you see like a story from a different perspective. And this centers on the Wicked Witch of the West. And basically how she grew up and, how she first met Glinda the Good Witch. Back before she was Glinda the Good Witch. Back when she was just Glinda the Blonde. And that was her only characteristic. Just blonde. And it started off as a book. And I've read the book. It's pretty good. I really want to see the Broadway musical. But I fucking can't because it's never in the same part of the country that I am.
It came to Vegas a few years ago. Maybe it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I didn't have money to go see it.
Yeah. Did you have the will to go see it back then, or were you just not interested?
I did. I wanted to go see it. Because ever since I heard the score, ever since I heard the song Defying Gravity, I was like, I need to see this movie, or I need to see this musical. Supposedly, it's going to have a cinematic release in 2019, but now I'm hearing that it's going to be more of like a horror sort of movie that's just set in Oz. So,
what's the point?
I don't understand why they would do that when just making a movie of Wicked with the original score and soundtrack would just be a giant cash pinata.
Who knows what the theory is behind that?
It's whatever. Anyway,
because you've always while we're still on Wicked, you've always liked musicals way more than me.
It was surprised. I was surprised when I first discovered musicals. I didn't think I would like them as much as I did. And now it's like, damn, this is really fun. And these songs are catchy as fuck. Yeah.
Well, we both grew up with one of the best musicals ever, the South Park movie.
Yes.
Which is a musical, because there are, the guys went on to write another musical. But
yes,
the progression...
Mormon.
Yeah. The progression of the movie takes place in song.
Yes, it does. And I think I still remember how to sing all the songs.
Little boy at peace, what is this place beyond the stars?
Open up your eyes, what is this place you're moving toward? Head so full of wonder, worries in the past. Could it be that you are free at last? No! Little boy, you're going to hell!
Yeah.
You said my words, the rocks and the birds, and now this is your hotel. You ain't going back to Disneyland, it's hell!
I love that when he's falling in all the pictures of Gandhi and George Burns and all these random people.
Hitler was there too.
Hitler was there.
Hitler was the first one we saw, and then it was that makes sense. And then we see George Burns. Hey, shithead, you seen Gracie? It's I guess that kind of makes sense. And then Gandhi there is orderliness in the universe. I'm like, what the fuck, Gandhi?
Gandhi, you shouldn't be here. You should. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first instance I had of seeing that. Damn, heaven's got some fucking strict admittance policies.
Seriously.
Damn. Anyway, so those are my 5. Bart, what do you got for us this week?
All right, so first up for me is Weird Al.
Nice.
I've been listening to Weird Al for over a decade now. Because he was on TV a lot when I used to watch MTV when I was a kid. Because he came out with Gangster's Paradise, around the same time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not Gangster's Paradise, Amish Paradise.
Amish, yeah. But it was a parody of Gangster's Paradise.
Yeah. So I bought... once I was older and had money, I bought the $35 collection on iTunes of all of his CDs. And I still have that. I'm like, yes. Yes. All of my
what's your favorite Weird Al song?
Maybe Trapped in the Drive-Thru? Drive-Thru?
I remember when we first saw that video.
Yes. That album... That album's probably the one I listen to the most, Straight Outta Linwood.
Right on.
But I noticed Alpocalypse is the last one he came out with. I don't like it. because I've noticed this as I become more just like jaded with modern pop music. Even the like rips on modern pop music still, it's close enough to the actual song that still just makes me grit my teeth.
Yeah.
Makes me make that like dad sound. Just.
It's suffering the same fate as like the Scary Movie franchise or the Epic movie or the fucking disaster movie. Those movies that just parody other movies, and it's like, dude, you're too current. It sucks.
Scary Movie was good.
Scary Movie was good because
Scary
it ripped
Movie
on classics.
Scary Movie ripped on modern movies because it ripped on Scream and The Matrix and I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it was Scary Movie 2 that ripped on, like, The Exorcist and...
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Oh, gosh, there's some just messed up scenes in that movie that I find hilarious.
Oh, yes. Just, damn.
What about you? Where did you get your dress? Oh, I got mine at Merv's. It's hot, right? Or no, I just came down here to get a banana. It's hot, right?
It's hot, right?
I love Shawn Wayans. I wish, like... Well, Marlon just did a special on Netflix. I want to watch that one.
Yeah, Woke-ish, I think it was called.
Yeah, Woke-ish.
Also starts with W.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty
and
good.
Wayans starts with W.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Accidentally keeping it thematic.
Yeah, well, at this point, we've done every letter except for 3.
Yeah.
W, X, Y, Z. Yeah. Anyways, Whose Line is my next thing. The name of the show is Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Nice.
Which, Pete, have you ever actually watched the show?
I did watch it a lot, actually. It was, when I watched it, I think Drew Carey was hosting.
That would not be good. So
yeah, no, because Jim Carrey wouldn't resist the urge to like just kind of climb over the desk and just
jump
start.
in.
Yeah.
Let your performers perform, Jim, but they're doing it wrong.
Let me tell you something. I spent the last week watching a lot of Fire Marshal Bill Burns. So let me tell you something.
Oh. So Whose Line Is Anyway was a British radio show, which then became a British television show, which Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery are on, even though they're Canadian.
Yeah.
Ryan Stiles moves back to L.A., gets a job on the Drew Carey show, shows Drew Carey the stuff, and Drew Carey's like, come on, ABC, like, we can make money off this. This is a good show. We already have a format.
Yeah, there you go.
And interesting thing, the making fun of the credits at the end of the show, they did that because that's what they did on the radio show because they'd have to read them off. So they were like, it's just another bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Next up on my list is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
I love that show.
Dude, I watched the heck out of the show when I was a kid. Because it came on while we were kids.
I felt back when I was like a real little kid, back when it first came out and Regis Philbin was hosting. Still love that man. But I always felt bad because I could never answer anything past the $1,000 question.
Yep, that's when it got hard.
Yeah. I was like, well, at least I know that if I get in a pinch, I can like just go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and win $1,000 and then be like, deuces.
Yeah. So, how it worked was, this was, I think, right after, because there was a big quiz show scandal in the 50s. So they changed the rules to where you couldn't just be on a quiz show for forever. You could be on, like, I think 5 times, and then, like, you had to stop.
Right.
There was a limit on how much money they could spend, and if I remember right, this was when they were, like, they wiped those laws away because inflation just made game shows, like, not as profitable as they should have been.
Yeah.
So they're like, screw it, $1 million. Nobody's going to win this thing. These questions get impossible after 32,000.
Yeah.
What is the name of the mole on my left butt cheek? Terrence. Larry. Clyde. Lord Sweatington.
Lord Swearington. Final answer.
My left butt cheek, are you sure?
Yep. I said final answer, motherfucker. Turn that box orange.
Oh, it was Larry!
Ah.
You were thinking of the right butt cheek. But I remember watching this and watching the dude who first won the $1 million.
I remember that.
Because that was the race. Like, everybody was watching every night because they were like, who's going to be the first person to just win $1 million?
Yeah, that one was crazy. And if I remember right, the $1 million question was... I think it was, where did the term computer bug come from?
I don't remember.
And it was when a moth basically crawled into a C drive.
And who came up with that?
I don't know.
Rear Admiral Grace Hopper. Because she actually taped the moth inside of her notebook at the time. Saying, we found a bug in the computer.
Nice.
Yeah. But I don't know if that was the last question. What I remember the dude doing is he hadn't used any lifelines up to that point.
This was like unprecedented. It's like, what kind of fucking superhuman is this?
He used his last one to call his dad, told his dad, Dad, I'm winning $1 million tonight. This final answer. And people were like, oh!
Yeah, he just said, like, listen, I don't actually need help with this question. I just wanted to call you and tell you I'm about to win $1 million.
Well,
and then, yeah, the whole audience was like, oh!
Well, those the solid brass ones to use a lifeline just to show off your knowledge.
Oh, man.
Insane.
Let's see. The hosts have changed on that show after a while. For a little bit, it was Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah, for a bit. It was, gosh, what was she's on The View now. She was right after Regis Philbin left.
Yeah, that's right.
Dang it. And, so, can't remember that, but what I do remember is Drew Carey, who we were talking about earlier, was actually on this, playing for charity.
Oh, nice. And that's right. They have charity episodes.
Yeah, and if I remember right, he actually stopped at 32,000 because he's like, I could chance it, but they need this money more than that. So, and he walked away.
Good guy.
Good guy, yeah.
And now the current host, if it hasn't changed since the last time I watched it, which was years ago, was Terry Crews.
Oh, I don't know if he's still there.
He was an excellent host when I saw it, because he is, like, Terry Crews just has fun with whatever he's doing. If what he isn't doing isn't fun, he will make it fun.
Yeah. And there's actually, like, international versions of this, because if you've ever seen Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes.
That's about the Indian version of this. It actually started out in Britain, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good show. Really good. But I gotta move on. So next on my list is Where the Wild Things Are.
Good book. Probably one of the first books I remember being read, at least.
Yeah, that book's really good. It's Maurice Sendak, and it's about Max going off. The movie I really, really liked. People are kind of iffy on that movie, but I loved it.
It's tough when they make a movie based on, like, a beloved book series or just a book in general, and it's like, you're either gonna get, like, pretty much the best you can hope for is people being like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, have you seen it?
I actually haven't.
Okay, so what I think it does well is getting Max's isolation down, and then the wild things don't act like adults. They act like kids. Which they should, because they're being led by Max, so they kind of talk like kids, even though it's James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
But the, like, effects in that were, like, super good. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. It's a fantastic book. There was a kid who once, Maurice Sendak's mom, or this kid's mom wrote Maurice Sendak this letter saying, like, my son loves your book, all this. And so he drew a picture for the kid, sent it back. So he gets another letter saying that, oh, he loved it. As soon as he saw it, he shoved it in his mouth and ate it. He was like, this is the greatest, like, compliment you can receive. Is that he didn't even think about it. He was just like, oh, I want this. Yeah.
That's great.
And then my last one is War of the Worlds.
Nice. Which one?
I'm just going to talk about everything. So the book was first written in 1895 for a magazine, and then it actually got published 1897. So you have a bunch of cool stuff in this book. You have first use of heat guns. You have, like, they had these weird gas canisters that would just kind of, like, smoke people out and, like, poison them.
Yeah.
You had the big tripods that they described as walking milk stools. Like, they call it a milk stool tipping violently. You can argue that this is the first use of giant robots, but it's really not. Because it's piloted by the Martians. And it breaks, like, one of the, like, the definition of robots, one of the things is resembles a human or animal. And this doesn't. It doesn't even look like the Martians. It just looks like the tripod.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that got remade into a movie back in the 1950s, which is really good.
Really is, yeah. And then it got remade into another movie starring Tom Cruise.
2004.
Yeah.
Which those are one of the ones where it's not Martians. Because they don't come from Mars.
It's true.
Yeah. Although, one TV show, like, movie thing that did we used to call them Martians, but now we've explored Mars, so we kind of can't call them Martian anymore, that, like, subverted it, My Favorite Martian.
Oh, yes.
Because it shows, I think, Curiosity, like, the rover just, like, stopping and being, like, because it got stopped by a rock.
It just stopped, like, right at a ridge.
It's like,
and, like, right over it was a whole Martian city, super advanced, and it's just like, la! And you just hear over the radio, it's like, well, guys, we've managed to move 300 feet and collected 5 rocks. I say that's $80 billion well spent!
But yeah, really good. I love it. So yeah, and that's me. That's my 5.
Nice. All right.
So, Pete, what have you got for us this week?
This week, I'm going to talk about Wreck-It Ralph.
Nice.
And this, when I first heard about it, I thought, like, okay, it's a movie about video games, kind of, but it's not really about video games. It just uses video games as a storytelling device, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it stars this guy named Ralph. He's a wrecker. He wrecks things professionally. And he is the villain of a video game called Fix-It Felix Jr., where he is constantly trying to, like, break down this apartment building. And, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like Donkey Kong, where, you know, Fix-It Felix Jr. has to basically hop up the building, fixing it as he goes, and then gets to the top, and then throws Ralph off the top into mud down below. Yeah. And this is like a tall apartment building, so, you know, that must be some seriously soft mud, because, you know, that would kill someone.
Well, he's not exactly human. He's a game character.
No.
Which, they actually made a playable online version of this when the movie came out.
Yeah, they did. And,
did you play it?
I did. It was actually Toonami's first paid hosting of a video game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, there's that. And so, naturally, when, you know, you're a sentient video game character, you kind of get tired of, you know, when you're not on the job, but people still treat you like you're on the job. So, Ralph is not, like, a villain. He just plays a villain. But even when nobody's playing the video game and all the characters in the video game are kind of, like, idle and, like, living their own lives and stuff, because that's what they do, they still treat him like an asshole. And it's like, dude,
Yeah. They make him live in, like, this little brick shack on outside of town.
Oh, he doesn't even get a shack. He's living on a pile of bricks.
It's the pile of bricks, that's right.
Yeah, and he pounds the bricks until they're soft enough to lay down on. Because he's got big old ham fists.
Yeah.
So, this movie was actually first developed in the late 1980s.
Oh, cool.
Under the working title High Score. Now, for a plethora of reasons, it didn't get made until, you know, later on. And, you know, technology for animation advanced a lot. And let's be honest, trying to make a video game movie in the 1980s, it's hard to explain if you haven't seen how much work went into stuff like war games. Just, the animation alone would have cost a fortune.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have made it CG. They would have made it 2D. But I think CG works better because you can do the, like, the disappearing effects and the, like, you can make your characters look soft and round and lovely and then have your, like, blips and your bloops be squares, like voxels.
So this was directed by Rich Moore, who worked on The Simpsons and on Futurama, and you can actually kind of see that sort of humor get translated into the movie. So there's a part where Ralph, having attended a Bad Guys Anonymous meeting,
which is one of the best scenes in the movie.
One of the best scenes. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But after he gets back from the meeting, he goes back to his game, and he sees that like there's a big party going on in the penthouse of the apartment, and it's like, what? And then fireworks are going off, and it's like 30th anniversary of Fix It Felix Jr. And it's like, well, he knew that it was the 30th anniversary of the game, and everybody in the Villains Anonymous meeting is like, you know, patting him on the back for it. It's like, hey, way to go, 30 years. And I'm not sure if they meant like 30 years that his game has existed or 30 years that his game has been in the arcade, because the arcade owner, Mr. Litwack, is definitely old enough to have been running that thing for 30 years.
Okay.
But, anyway, he's understandably upset. They're having a 30th anniversary party, and he wasn't invited. Yeah. So, you know, he goes up to the penthouse, and he barely fits, because he's fucking huge. Like, he has to, like, scrunch down a little bit, and his shoulders are still hitting the ceiling, and his head is just like, eh. And then he basically, like, sort of passively guilts Felix into, like, inviting him inside for some cake, where it's just like, yeah, I've never had cake, and nobody ever seems to throw it out, so I've always wanted to try cake. And then Felix is, like, trying to be hospitable, and it's like, do you want to come inside for some cake? And then, like, he immediately just takes him up on that offer and just, like, bursts it into the door, and all the people who live in the apartment, they're called Nicelanders. The apartment is called Niceland.
Yeah.
It's corny as fuck. Anyway.
Well, it's an old video game.
Yeah. One of the, like, he's, like, looking at all the Nicelanders, and he knows all of them by name, and they're all looking at Ralph like, oh, I don't like you. And then fucking Gene, he looks at Gene, he's like, Big Gene! And then Big Gene doesn't even look at Ralph, looks at Felix and goes, why is he here? And Felix is like, he's just here for a slice of cake, and then, yeah, so don't worry about it. And then Ralph just, like, kind of, like, inserts himself into the conversation. It's like, and I'm a pretty big part of the game, technically. I mean, why are you here, Gene? And right there, you're just sitting there like, oh, because Gene doesn't do shit. He just, like, sits out of the window going like, ah!
Nice.
It's great. So, you know, at this point, Ralph talks about, like, you know, he doesn't like being treated like garbage. You know, just because he has to play a bad guy doesn't mean he deserves to be treated like this on, you know, in the off hours. But, you know, all the Nicelanders are like, no, you're a bad guy. We hate you. And it's like, dude, y'all must have been made early because y'all are dumb, 8-bit brains. He doesn't actually say that, but there is a part where the cake gets smashed and the splatter is all pixelated, and it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there was a cake. I didn't mention that.
Well, you talked about the cake, like Felix offered him cake.
There was a slice of cake, but there was like this big cake that was made to. It was like a Cake Boss level cake, where it's like it was supposed to be a replica of the apartment building Niceland, and each layer was that resident's favorite flavor of cake.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And then Ralph just goes and smashes it because, you know, people are like, you're a bad guy. It's like, no, I'm not. It's like, yes, you are. It's like, no, I'm not. And he smashes it.
Because isn't because there's a model of him on the cake, and it's like off to the side and it's bricks, isn't it?
It's him in the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's just sitting here like, and then all the Nicelanders and Felix are on top of Niceland, and they're all giving Felix his medal. And Felix gets a medal every time he wins the game, so he has like a shitload of medals. And then Ralph is like, hey, you know, I could earn a medal too if I wanted. And then they're all like, no, because good guys only get medals. You're a bad guy. You just want to like smack some of these Nicelanders around a little bit. And they all kind of look like egg people.
They look like Weeble Wobbles.
Weeble Wobbles, that's, yeah. Anyway, so he's like, you know what? Fine, I'll fucking go and get myself a medal. And before I do that, I want to talk about the Villains Anonymous meeting and some of the cameos that are there, because these aren't like just generic video game characters where it's like, oh, he looks sort of like... No, we got Dr. Robotnik, we got Bowser, we got a House of the Dead zombie, we got M. motherfucking Bison!
Okay, so what is that guy's name in Japan?
Oh, hang on. I know this because I just watched the fucking death battle where they pitted M. Bison against, they pitted M. Bison against that, evil overlord guy from Mortal Kombat. Oh, God.
Trivia time.
Ah, shit.
Trivia.
Oh. His name in Japan was that one guy's name here who's got the mask and the claws.
Yes, and that is Vega.
I can't remember his name.
It's Vega.
Vega.
But yeah, it's Vega because he switched with Vega because they thought the Vega wasn't a like tough enough name for a villain, and then Vega switched with Balrog because Balrog's name was Mike Bison in Japan,
and then rape scandal.
No, I think this is before that.
No, it was like the same year when it got ported over to the U.S. and it was in 1991, I think, and that was the year of Mike Tyson's rape scandal. So they were like, "Oh,
no," because Tyson was
no more Mike. Well, the video game name was Mike Bison. So then they were like, M. Bison."
Yeah, and they just made M. Bison the main guy, and then
they kind of like implied it without saying that the M stood for like master.
Something like that. But so now in international tournaments, like for EVO, when they announce it, they don't say M. Bison, Balrog, Vega. They say Boxer, Dictator, Claw.
Yep. Yeah, that's about right. It gets the point across.
Yeah. But some villains, like the famous Zangief, keep their names because their names are sweet.
Yes. And we actually have Zangief giving Ralph, like, you know, a pep talk where it's like, just because you are a bad guy doesn't mean you're bad guy. And then Ralph is kind of dumb. Like, he just doesn't understand what these other bad guys are saying in the support group. And even to the point where, like, the zombie is trying his best to form coherent sentences. Just doing his best. He's like, Zangief say, bad guy, good guy, you must love you.
And they have Satan, who I think is a reference to Diablo.
That was definitely the Diablo Satan, yeah.
Okay.
And it's just so great. And we get, like, so many other references in this movie just from video games. Okay, so you might ask, like, oh, how do all these characters all interact with each other? They're in separate games. They communicate through the hub, which is, like, basically just this...
it's the Surge Protector.
It's a Surge Protector, and it's kind of like a whole... It's kind of got that whole, like, Grand Central Station feel to it.
Yeah.
So, we have, like, so many different characters walking around there. Like, you could pause the movie at any given point, and you could pick out 10 iconic characters. And that's not even saying to the atmospheric references. So, in the Grand Central Station area, we actually have graffiti that says things like Aerith lives, and Sheng Long was here.
What's that a reference to?
That was a reference to Street Fighter. That was April Fool's joke character.
Kind of, sort of, yes, no.
So I'm not super fluent in Street Fighter.
So Street Fighter 2, they have those like messages on the screen before you go into a fight, and one of the ones that Ryu says is Sheng Long will defeat you, because it's a mistranslation, because it's supposed to be the Dragon Punch will defeat you, the Shoryuken will defeat you.
Yeah.
But people thought like, who's Sheng Long? It's got to be a secret character. It's got to be a secret character, and then they actually made him.
Yeah. So then. Two more that are visible. All your base are belong to us, which is a famous, like, sort of mistranslation from Zero Wing. Memes. All the memes.
Speaking of memes.
Belong to us. And finally, probably one of the king of memes, Jenkins.
Yep. As in Leroy.
Leroy Jenkins!
So that was actually, they were intending to do that. That wasn't, that didn't actually happen. That was scripted.
Yeah. Which makes me sad.
Anyway.
So, in order to find himself a medal, Ralph goes into a game called Heroes... Well, first he goes to the Tapper from the video game Tapper and asks for advice. And he doesn't really, like, get much advice, because the Tapper's just like, hey, man, maybe you should just, chill with what you got. I mean, you've been here for 30 years, man. You're like a legacy now. You're set for life. And then Ralph is like, I've been sleeping in garbage for 30 years. I don't want to sleep in garbage for the rest of ever. So, he basically goes like, hey, man, you're welcome to sift through the lost and found. Maybe somebody left a medal in there. And so he, goes through the lost and found, and there's all these fucking video game props. There's the exclamation point, shring, from Metal Gear Solid. There's fucking Mario Mushroom, and there's a pair of Zangief's undershorts. It's just like, oh, come on, Zangief! So many men's crushed like sparrow's egg between thighs.
Nice.
Anyway, he meets this guy from a new video game called Hero's Duty.
Who also has one of my coolest, video game things, is because that dude is an NPC, and he's running directly into a wall.
Yes.
I love that he doesn't realize he's running into a wall. Just
he's walking into a wall and saying a scripted line over and over again. He's just bugged out. And so he's basically, he's got sort of, some PTSD going on, where it's like, every day it's climb the building, fight bugs, climb the building, fight more bugs, and why? So some kid can get a medal? And then Ralph is like, a medal?
A medal?
It's like, yeah, Medal of Heroes. Oh, is it shiny? It's pretty shiny. So now Ralph's got this wild hair up his ass. I'll go to Hero's Duty, because I'm great at fighting and climbing buildings. That's what I do. And so he does that. There's also a point in the game Central Station where there's, one of those little service announcements, one of those PSAs that are played over and over again. It's Sonic giving exposition that if you die outside of your game, you don't respawn. And it makes sense, because the game that you die in, if it's not yours, it doesn't have your code, and your game doesn't register the fact that you died. It just registered the fact that you left and you never came back. So no game knows that you're dead.
Yeah.
The game that does know you're dead doesn't have your code, so it can't respawn you. And the games themselves are just basically programs. They're basically buildings. They're not sentient. So they can't talk to each other.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, Mario was supposed to make a cameo appearance, but they couldn't figure out where to put him, so they just didn't.
They kind of did a throwaway line when Ralph showed up at the party. It's like, oh, that must be Mario. Fashionably late as usual. Anyway, so then we get Hero's Duty, which is this Halo-esque sort of game where it's just super crazy lasers, strobe lights, And it looks like one of those like super expensive arcade games where you gotta put in like $2 for one game. And it's like, fuck, $2? And that's video games are. I just want to like pull us out of Wreck-It Ralph for a minute, just to talk about how video games are the only time where I will go $2. That's kind of a lot.
Well, because you know you're gonna die quickly. You know that $2 isn't gonna carry you for like 20 minutes or whatever.
I know, but at the same time, it's $2.
I don't know, man. Like
at minimum wage in this state, I would have to work for 12 minutes.
Still, man, that's my money.
Yeah, still.
But you're the same, yeah, but the same thing is like, I don't pay for apps. Like, no, this is an extremely useful app. It only costs $1. Just give the dude the $1. I don't pay for
pretty
apps.
much. But, yeah, so there's that. And shit goes wrong. Before I go any further, in the group therapy session for villains, they bring up the idea of going turbo. They don't explain what it is there. They just ask like, whoa, Ralph, you're not going turbo, are you? And M. Bison asks that, and he's got those fucking just blank white eyes. I love that design so much.
Yes.
Anyway. And the fact that he's like honestly like caring about another person is just hilarious to me. Because it's fucking M. Bison. He doesn't give a shit. He conquered a country and slaughtered all the militia of that opposing army, and to him it was just Tuesday.
Yep.
Anyway, there's not many people who are going to get that reference.
Nah, but the ones who do will like appreciate it. Raul Julia nailed it in that movie, but with anyways.
So good. Anyway, so he basically gets catapulted. Like he makes it all the way up to the building. He basically just speed runs his way up there. By which I mean he doesn't actually do it very quickly. He just finds a shortcut. I.e., instead of fighting his way through the inside of the tower, he just climbs it. Just and makes it to the top, and then there's like all these cybug eggs. Cybug.
Dang it.
Anyway. So there are all these cybug eggs, and basically like if you touch one, it'll hatch. Kind of a weird gestation period, but whatever. So he makes it all the way up to this floating medal, and like he takes it, and it's like, yeah, I got my medal, and it's like, yeah, and he's not watching where he's going, and he steps on a cybug egg, and it hatches, and then like it latches onto his face, and then he stumbles around, and he's like stepping on all the cybug eggs, and it's awful. And it just gets worse. And then he stumbles into a escape shuttle, which launches him out of Heroes Duty through Game Central Station and into another innocent, fluffy candy game called Sugar Rush.
Nice.
Which is basically your Mario Kart sort of game where you're racing around in these like kooky, cartoony carts, and you pick up power-ups, and you just try to commit horrible assault on your fellow racers in the name of like, yeah, I'm the best racer. It's like, no, you're the most violent racer.
Well, there's ways to dodge things, and that there's skill to that, which Mario Kart 8 actually had, because Super Mario, New Super Mario Brothers U, Super Mario Brothers U was like sweets themed, so your levels were like cakes and sherbets and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they had a track in Mario Kart 8 based on that looked exactly like the scene from Sugar Rush.
Yeah.
They took it from Mario took it back and made it awesome.
Yep. So, anyway, time passes. Ralph is stuck in Sugar Rush. Somebody tries to play Fix-It Felix Jr. Ralph's not there, so the building's not getting destroyed, so Fix-It Felix has nothing to fix. So now people are thinking that Fix-It Felix Jr. is out of order, so it gets an out of order sign, which is the video game equivalent of the fucking black spot.
Yeah, the cool effect when they put it on the machine, and then the light from like heaven from the inside of the machine just goes red, and you see out of order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad. Yeah, it's like, oh man, if we don't get Ralph back by tomorrow, we're gonna get pulled out of the arcade. And, you know, we've seen what happens when characters have their game pulled out of the arcade. Because Q*bert is homeless in Game Central Station, and you're sitting there like, aw.
He's cute.
Yeah, poor Q*bert. And all his friends who aren't named Q*bert, that I don't remember.
Spring Snake.
They all have names like Glurp or something like that.
I just remember Q*bert was like the sweary one. Just
yeah, that was great. They also have a bit where Fix-It Felix has to talk to Q*bert, and he's like, my Q*bertese is a little rusty. And so when he's talking to Q*bert, those like little random symbols and letters just kind of like pop up, and it's like, and, yeah, it's complete nonsense, and it's hilarious. So, then Ralph is in Sugar Rush, which is just made of candy, and there he meets Vanellope von Schweetz, who's voiced by Sarah Silverman. And she's basically like, she wants to be a racer, but she doesn't have a cart, but she can make a cart with Ralph's help, because, she's like the outcast of the game because she's a glitch, and, you know, he kind of like feels a kinship with her because everybody treats her like shit. So, you know, like literally like pushing her in the mud, and that's like Ralph's trigger, is being pushed in the mud.
Yeah.
Like he sees that and he just fucking goes Hulk on these poor little kids. Like, and they're little, they're tiny compared to him, just like itty bitty little children. And he's about to like punch them with a fist the size of their body.
It's so good though.
It really is. So, middle. Because I can't talk about it as much as I want to. Vanellope wants to race, and in order to get into the race, you have to insert a coin from your previous winnings. Since Vanellope's never won, she doesn't have a coin. So she takes Ralph's medal and throws it into like this trophy bucket thing, and the game registers it as a coin, even though it's not a coin. So now she's on the board, and there's this ruler of this candy land, whatever. His name is King Candy, and he is super against her racing, and at first it's like, oh, he's just a fucking asshole, but no, it turns out like, oh, she's a glitch, which means that if she enters the random roster race, which determines the 9 racers that will be playable on that game for that day, and if she gets picked, then she's going to glitch out, and then people are going to tell Mr. Litwack that the game is out of order, and then they'll have their game pulled out of the arcade, and since glitches can't leave their own game, she's going to be stuck, and when the game dies, she dies with it. So, he's trying to protect her. And it's like, oh. And then it comes to a head at, like, probably the darkest scene I've seen in a Disney movie in a while, and that is when Ralph is forced to destroy her cart while she watches helplessly hanging from a candy cane branch.
Yep.
That shit was dark. I was like, dude, kids are watching this!
I liked it. I thought it was really good.
It was a really emotional scene. It was really well done. But it was just like, like you feel so bad. Like, you want to cry. And Vanellope actually is crying, and then she like looks at him and it's like, you really are a bad guy. And it's like, oh, my heart.
Another good reference from the Candy King or King Candy's thing. Well, 2 good ones. One, Oreo.
Yes.
Oreo.
Yeah, so he's got guards like the Wicked Witch had, except they're actually Oreo cookies, and they just go, Oreo, Oreo, instead of all we own, we owe.
Is that what they say? I didn't know they actually said words. I thought it was just
Yeah,
like...
it was supposed to be like some dig on communism where it's like all we own we owe. So it's supposed to be a thing on communism, but fucking everything in that age was a dig on communism. So what the fuck ever? It's like how we say everything nowadays is satire. Nobody fucking knows what satire is anymore.
Dude, satire doesn't exist anymore.
No, it really doesn't. Satire has become reality.
Second thing, second reference I really liked, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses.
Yeah, and then like so, yeah, it's a reference to the 1989 Batman. King Candy just like pulls out a pair of glasses. You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? And he also has that goofy voice where it's like kind of lispy, but also kind of like pitches up and down and deep and high and squeaky. So and then Ralph just takes the glasses off and just bops him on the head with it. Just you would hit a guy with glasses. That well played.
And because of this movie, well, before I do that, like, any last words?
So what?
I said before I go on to what I was going to say, any last words?
Oh, no, yeah, do you.
So because this movie was a phenomenal success, this movie did great, which it actually had a completely different design before and after they got John Lasseter in there, which John Lasseter, morally, maybe not the best guy, but the man makes good movies. But you see that, like, the shift between when he showed on board, it was wildly different. And the movie is wildly successful to where now they have Alan Tudyk, who played King Candy, in every one of their movies.
Yes.
He was in Frozen. He was in Zootopia. He was in Moana.
That's right. Yeah, he was. Yeah, Alan Tudyk is just... He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
So, sort of wrapping up, like, I don't want to, like, give away any twists or the ending, even though the movie's been out for a while and the sequel's coming out this year, which I'm definitely stoked to go see it because it's just called Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I was like, fuck yeah, Wreck-It Ralph in the Internet! And have you seen the trailer for that yet?
I have not.
Oh, it's so good. Like, it gives away nothing of the plot, except that the internet is a thing, and it's just, it's hilarious. So, there's one more reference in this movie that goes almost completely unnoticed unless you freaking delve far enough into Wikipedia that, you start questioning, like, what am I doing with my life? But there is a racer in Sugar Rush named Minty Zaki. And she is a reference to Hayao Miyazaki.
Nice. See,
her name never gets said out loud.
Wait, really?
Really. Huh. But you see her. She's the green one.
Oh.
And I think, like, I think at one point her first name just gets said. Like, somebody just calls her Minty. But, like, yeah. It's just... we know Candlehead, and we know other people. I don't freaking remember, but
Candlehead?
Yeah, Candlehead. He's got a candle on his head. His theme is birthday cakes.
In the movie?
Yeah.
I don't remember Candlehead. I feel bad.
Remember the cherry bomb goes off? Or no, not the cherry bomb, but like during the big jump, and Vanellope like basically punks out 3 people, and they all crash in icing, and he's the one that pops up, and like his candle is bent, and like the flame is out. So my candle.
Do not remember that, man.
Really?
I need to watch this movie again. I haven't watched it in a while.
It's so good, and it's infinitely rewatchable. Like, it's just fun. It's also one of, I think, only 12 Disney Pixar no, not 12. Like 6, I want to say. It's a very exclusive club of Disney Pixar movies that do not have songs in them.
Not Pixar.
They've got musical tracks, and they've got like songs recorded by other artists, but nobody in the movie sings.
Not Pixar. It is Disney Animation Studios.
Huh.
Because Frozen wasn't Pixar. It was Disney Animation Studios. Zootopia wasn't Pixar. Disney Animation Studio. Planes wasn't Pixar.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. See, what they did...
So what's Pixar even doing now? What are you doing with your life, Pixar?
Incredibles 2, and they're taking forever to do it.
Ugh,
See,
yeah.
what they did was they took the talent from Pixar and just dumped it in the normal ones. Let Pixar, since it's already a well-oiled machine, just let it run. And they took their people and just got them up to speed and let that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disney Animation's the one that's, like, making them the money. Pixar is just kind of like... It's weird, like... Because what was the last Pixar movie that came out? Cars 3?
Yes. I want to say yes.
I never watched Cars 3.
I
started it.
I watched it, and the method I used to watch it may or may not have been entirely good.
You have Netflix, though.
I have Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, but I watched it before it came on Netflix.
You watched a Handycam?
Sort of. Kind of. I think it was like a Russian bootleg or something like that, but like it was Russian subtitles but English language. It was weird to look at.
Yeah, that'll take you out of it pretty hard.
Yeah. But I don't really care for cars. Like, I don't even quite understand their popularity that much.
Yeah, I don't get the appeal either. My son really, really, really likes Mater. And Larry the Cable Guy. Ever since I learned that he's not actually from the South, really changed my opinion of that man.
Ever since we learned that his real name was...
Lawrence Whitmire. Or Lawrence Whitmore.
Lawrence Whitmore, yeah. And,
look it up, folks.
And once he started selling Prilosec, I was like, okay, something's not adding up here. Get yourself some Prilosec OTC for that heartburn.
All right, last words on Wreck-It Ralph. Any last cameos, bits that you really, really loved?
So there are two parts that actually made me tear up in the theater and pretty much whenever I watch it now. One was when Ralph is about to sacrifice himself in order to save Vanellope and all of his friends after, like, there's this huge
after the big
virus.
Climax of the movie, yeah.
And that is when he's basically punching this huge mound of what's it called?
Marzipan?
No, it's Mentos.
Oh,
Mentos.
yeah.
Big mound of Mentos into the diet soda volcano, and he's basically like, I'm definitely gonna die. And so he recites the villain's affirmation while clutching a medal that Vanellope made for him that says, "You're my hero." And he says, "I'm bad, and that's good. I'll never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me." And I'm sitting here like, oh my god! And then there's the epilogue of the story where, you know, the Nicelanders are finally being nice to Ralph, and he says that whenever... the best part of his day is right when the Nicelanders are about to toss him in the mud, because when they lift him up, he can just barely see the Sugar Rush video game cabinet. Like, they can see out through the screen, out through the glass of the cabinet screen. And, you know, he's seeing Vanellope, and she's, like, happy, and all the gamers love her, glitch and all, and it's great. And, you know, God, I'm getting, like, kind of teared up thinking about it right now. He basically says, like, you know, if that kid likes me, how bad can I be?
Yeah.
And, yeah. Fucking feels. I told you to stay down. I gave you beer, damn it. Anyway, so that's it for me for Wreck-It Ralph. So, Bart, what do you have for us this week?
So this week I'm talking about Warhammer 40,000.
Warhammer 40,000.
All right, Pete, since we haven't heard you talk enough, what do you know about Warhammer?
Let's see. There's a blood god.
There is a blood god.
He likes blood. And there's a skull throne, which apparently never has enough skulls.
No.
And there is a caste of... there's like a caste system. There's Space Marines.
Yep.
And there's Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's war. That's about all I know.
Yeah, that's true. So Warhammer started in 1987 it's a tabletop game that is an offshoot of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which is another tabletop game. And this is the biggest tabletop game in the world. Like, outside of stuff like Monopoly, but they're not... Well, I guess they are continually making money off Monopoly.
They're constantly making new editions. I mean, I saw a Rick and Morty Monopoly.
I remember stopping you once from buying Adventure Time Monopoly because I was like, Pete, when's the last time you've ever finished a game of Monopoly? You don't finish games of Monopoly.
You don't finish games of Monopoly. You murder your family.
You start games of Monopoly. You're like, oh, this is Monopoly. This is fun. And then you, like, get a third of the way through it. Maybe one person gets eliminated, maybe two. And then you have to go do something else, and you just pack up the board because it's not worth keeping out because it's Monopoly.
Yeah.
Monopoly is the worst game because of the, like, quality to being the, like, number of what people think of it to how many games get completed is so different.
It really is.
Warhammer's the opposite. Like, people either haven't heard of it, love it religiously, or treat it like it's crack. One of those.
Yeah.
No, that's not for me. That's not. No, you go ahead. You go do what you want. But that's not me anymore. That's not who I want to be.
You remember that video, Everything from Britannic?
Yes.
It's just like, tell me everything. You sure? Yes. And then it's like,
Well, it's like starting from the Big Bang.
There's a speed round, and it's like, tell me everything. Baltic Avenue's a piece of shit.
You like that, don't you? Anyways, but Warhammer is like divisive. The people who love it religiously, which is parodied within the game, and the people who don't like it, I will never touch this game. I will never play this game. The world around the game,
which is kind of interesting considering how much research you have put into learning about the world of Warhammer.
Dude, like reading like Wikipedia articles, it's the same thing I used to do with comic books. Just reading about like what they're capable, little adventures they went on. Really fun. No, not gonna play this game. $160 for a starting set.
What the fuck?
Right? Like,
I got fucking Defenders of the Realm, which was, I thought, expensive for like $70.
Yeah. There's a Star Wars Armada. No, not Armada. What's the one with it's the Star Wars in a box. It's the one they just came up with. Anyways, doesn't matter. But that one's $100. But the $160, that is almost 3 video games. 3 brand new video games. This isn't counting paint, because you have to paint your miniatures as well.
Damn, man.
Yeah, no, never touching this.
That's too much.
But it is good.
That's asking the player to do too much.
Out of the gate, it's like trying to get into Walking Dead right now. Being like, I'm going to read all of them. Okay, so here's the problem.
So here's the thing with that.
You're going to spend a lot of money. Anyway, so how Warhammer started out, the like first version is Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, and it was supposed to be like more of an RPG, more of your Dungeons and Dragons. They had a DM, but they called him the umpire. Kind of strange.
I guess if you want to do that thing where it's like, we need a synonym, but something that sounds different enough.
Game Master is generally your like non-denominational one.
Yeah, people usually go by Game Master, but I guess Warhammer wanted to be a special little snowflake.
So they went umpire, but it was like an RPG. It was more like D&D. And then the second version, they're like, let's just make it like actual Warhammer, because that's what people are expecting when they get into it. The basic premise of the storyline of the world is this one sentence, which is, in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. There are no feelings, there are no emotions, there is kill the orcs, kill the Xenos. So you have the Imperium man who has the Emperor who's dead, kind of. You have the orcs who just, like classic fantasy orcs, even though these ones are spelled with a K, they still just destroy everything they see and are never at peace.
Right.
You have the Eldar, which are space elves. They used to have space dwarves. They were called squats. There were people who had moved to colonize planets that had like exceptional gravity, so they were just like shorter than the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they got rid of that, and then now I think there's another like space dwarf race. But it's all these different factions, and the main plot of the game is everything sucks and it's awful. Which was meant to be a joke. This was meant to just be, like when they made it, it was the Space Marines and the Imperium and the Imperial cult and just the like harsh enforcement of it was meant to be a parody of fascism. Thank you, Margaret Thatcher. We have another British thing that's a parody of fascism. You had these like, the Marines are the like upper warrior class. Everybody in the Imperium worships the Emperor as a god. If you don't worship the Emperor as a god, then you will be purged for heresy.
Heresy!
And I'm going to read this old quote. This is from a guy named Richard, I can't remember his last name, but he was one of the creators of the game. To me, the background of 40K was always intended to be ironic. The fact that the Space Marines were lauded as heroes within Games Workshop always amused me because they're brutal, but they're also completely self-deceiving. The whole idea of the Emperor is that you don't know whether he's alive or dead. The whole Imperium might be running on superstition. There's no guarantee that the Emperor is anything other than a corpse with a residual mental ability to direct spacecraft. It's got some parallels with the religious beliefs and principles, and I think a lot of that got missed and overwritten. It's like,
sorry.
It's true and it's kind of sad, because when you read stuff like the books and the novels and everything else that went along with it, the writers and the people who love the game buy in on punish heretics and purge Xenos filth, or alien Xenos, same thing. That they don't see that it's supposed to be a joke. And it's kind of sad, especially the books, because the books get weird. But,
yeah.
So, in the original version of it, and this is like before I move on, in the original version of it, there was a class called the Inquisition. And Inquisitors were designed to, like the Spanish Inquisition, keep people in line with the church, right?
Yeah.
So Inquisitors would find out deviants like heretics or psychics, because being a psychic is illegal. They'd find psychers or heretics and just like kill them. And so they were supposed to be like detectives. So your first named Inquisitor throughout the whole thing was Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau. Pete, I want you to look up a picture right now of Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau.
Okay. Okay. All right. Stand by for key clicking.
Now I'm going to silence it. But what he did, like, they talk about how he, like, wears ridiculous fancy clothing, because that's what Inquisitors do, because they can, because they're, like, an upper level of society.
What the fuck?
Doesn't he look like a dude who would be like, yeah, I'm going to be a detective in this cool world? He looks like the fan that they just said, yeah, this is what your Inquisition looks like.
He looks like a hippie
neckbeard
dwarf traffic cone.
Oh my gosh, I almost spit out my drink. I wasn't expecting traffic cone. But he looks ridiculous.
It's the checkerboard pattern at the bottom of his cloak there.
Yeah. It was meant... This is another thing that, like, solidifies it was meant to be a joke.
Yeah, but obviously. Like, I can't imagine anybody taking that seriously.
You'd be surprised. So, but people did take it seriously and they fell in love with it. And it's kind of hard to fall in love and get deeply fanatical about something that's just a joke. Not that people don't do it, i.e. Rick and Morty. But yeah.
Oh, God.
But there's a huge external universe. Lots of books and audiobooks and dramas and all this stuff. I counted, because they don't have a list that's numbered, so I had to count 571 novels, audio dramas, short stories, compendiums, everything. That started in 1990. So things of interest in this world, like basic things before I start on my next thing. I need to establish who or what the Emperor is. So the Emperor is the God Emperor of mankind. The Emperor, when the Earth was kind of just tearing itself apart, the Emperor took over the planet, visited all the colonies that Earth had, took them back over, and then just kept conquering planets. And it was during this Great Crusade that they made Space Marines, and they made what were called the Primarchs, which are like each Space Marine chapter has a Primarch that is their advanced humans because they have organs that have been modified with Primarch DNA. And the Primarch's DNA comes from the Emperor himself. So when you have like Blood Angels, I forget what his name was, but Sanguinus, like they had a dude who had wings, who wore red armor, who was a Blood Angel. He was the first Blood Angel, and then he made his chapter.
Huh.
Yeah. So the Emperor died, kind of, during this event called the Horus Heresy, which is one of his Primarchs, his most beloved and held above highest. I wonder what this is a reference to. Called Horus, decided to go to the forces of chaos instead of to the Emperor and just take over the Empire. Because the Chaos Demon said, look at the future. It's so horrible, isn't it? But you can stop this if you kill the Emperor. And he's like, I need to stop this horrible future. It's one of those, no, dude, you're going to make the horrible future. You're going to make, nobody can hear me.
Yeah.
He turns to Chaos and then tries to conquer the Emperor. He kills his brother, the Blood Angel, Sanguinus. I can't remember his first name. He kills the Blood Angel. Then the Emperor beams on board his ship and just like kills Horus and like psychically shatters his being to where he is just completely decimated.
Damn.
But Horus stabbed the Emperor with like a cursed sword that killed him. So the Emperor is kept alive on a maybe on this machine called the Golden Throne. And in order to keep him alive, they sacrifice 1,000 psychers a day.
Wow.
And all this took place in 30,000 AD. So I did the math. 3,652,500 psychers. If you killed 1,000 psychers a day, 365 days a year, counting leap years. Because it's important to count leap years. Yeah.
It's important. It's important.
In the grim, dark future, there is only war and leap years because we like to keep our calendars. And that got you? The calendar line? Whatever.
I don't know. It just I wasn't expecting it, so I didn't build up a defensive turret for that direction.
So everything that happens in the heresy happens 10,000 years before your modern Warhammer. And that's when all the interesting stuff happens, is in 30,000 AD. Because you have character conflicts. It's not just like, we need a squad of Marines to take this planet back from the Orc. It's like, no, we need Reboot Gilliman, who's a character, to take back this planet from his evil-turned brother, Magnus the Red. Something like that. Its characters...
I love the name Magnus.
Magnus, yeah. So what Magnus did was... So the Emperor was working on this thing called the... it was a thing that the Space Elves made so they wouldn't have to... Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the problem with the like Horus Heresy books and novels and stuff is Horus is clearly evil the whole time. Like, you look at him, just look up a picture of him before he got turned. His like armor had this giant evil red eye on it. He had tubes going into his head. It's one of those, clearly this man's evil. And nobody's noticed.
Let's see here. Images. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks like a magical Lex Luthor in the anti-Superman suit.
Yes! Like, he does not look like a good guy, even before he went over to Chaos. And the people who work for him, like Magnus the Red, the blood red colored psychic, Captain Nails in Head, Sergeant Demon Sword, and finally the Goth King, the other Primarchs who went traitor with him.
Wait, Sergeant Demon Sword? Of the Rhode Island Demon Swords?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them for surviving 30,000 years.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens as a book, is the guy gets a sword and the sword's like, you're doing so good, you're doing so good, you should just keep killing me, just keep killing me. And he's like, yeah, I am going to use this sword a lot. Thank you, sword. And he never goes like, maybe the sword's evil. Nope. Sword's good, sword's fine, sword is fine.
Sometimes the only way you can keep yourself together is just by kind of rolling with it, like, huh, the sword's talking to me. Well, I mean, it's very complimentary and encouraging, so that's okay, I guess.
It's such a nice sword.
It's such a nice sword. It's being so nice.
So you have, that's the problem with the heresy. Some other interesting things about the universe that I've always found interesting is the warp. So how their ships work, Star Trek, you use like warp coils to fold space and that transports you further. Star Wars, you use a hyperdrive and it gets you where you need to go. The warp, you travel through the demon world.
Oh, so kind of like Nightcrawler.
Yeah, but like a whole...
Or Event Horizon.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly that. So they go in one end, they travel through the demon verse, and then out the other end. And if half their crew survives, celebrate, because half of us are alive.
Hooray!
And the ship designs are always really cool, because it's based on like a fantasy thing, but it's also set in the future. So you get these like ships that look half like cathedrals. I always thought it looked really cool. And they do the same thing with their giant robots, the Titans, where it looks like a giant suit of armor with like knight's armor with the like grill in the front with a giant cathedral on its back. Looks rad. Like visually, this series is amazing. But storyline wise, once you go into it, it's like, oh, this is boring. It's so boring. You have stuff like the commissars, who are, their purpose is to, they're within the Imperium. Their purpose is to keep discipline in the ranks. And if you are like, they look like you're going to desert or run away from battle, they'll just kill you. It's one of those, your lieutenant is a coward. Who wants a promotion? I don't want a promotion. Bah! This man is a coward. Who wants a promotion?
Jeez, man.
Yeah, it's not, but it's part of the whole, like, the grim darkness of the future, blah, blah, blah. Which, that's actually where the term grimdark comes from.
Oh, nice.
Because it's just shortening that. And the whole, like, so metal. Like, it's one of those, like, yeah, you're metal, but it runs into the problem, if I never see you smile, I don't care if you're sad.
Huh.
If all you see is Broody McBruderson, I don't care when he's brooding. He's always brooding. That's his 0 point.
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough.
So that guy's eating a baby. Well, yeah, Chaos Demon. He's always eating babies. It's his favorite.
Yeah, his name is Nigel Baby Eater Johnson.
Or it was. Now it's
Yeah.
Which, but yeah, it's a fun universe to read about because it has 30 years of just like interesting things. Like, so you have your space elves, right? And they're psychic.
Yeah.
You have humans who are born basically without souls, that when it touches, or when they touch a space elf, it like sucks part of their soul into the like black hole that is the human soul. So they hate them and they don't want to touch them. I want to get away from them. So what they did was that some humans devised a way to stop the elves, and they wrote it in this book that's made out of like null skin. I think they're called nulls. They write it in a book that's made out of null skin with this little apparatus to like keep the skin alive. Because the Eldar won't find the book and won't ever like read what's inside of it because they don't even want to touch the thing. Brutal.
Yeah.
But cool. Like, it's like, oh, so this is how you solve this particular problem. Because the Eldar have this, like, I think they call it the webway, which is, it's traveling from point to point in space, but it's not using the warp, so you don't get killed by demons. and the Emperor was actually working on a thing for that because it connected to Earth. He was working on a way to get humans to use the webway. When our red psychic from earlier broke through the psychic barriers that like he kept to keep demons out, and was like, Horus is going to betray you, and then a bunch of demons pop up, and like the Emperor has to kill them all, and the Emperor's like, you ruined everything. You ruined all my work. The other Primarchs are like, what should we do? He's like, blow up his planet. I hate him. Destroy him. Because the Emperor does not screw around. It's like, he said that Horus, my favorite son's going to betray me. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And then he invited a bunch of demons in here. So, yeah, you know what to do. Go blow up the planet. And then there's, like, demon princes, which are, if you side with chaos and you, like, give yourself up to chaos, you, like, get corrupted and get, like, weird demon powers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
My main exposure to Warhammer was the Space Marine video game that they did for the PS3.
Yes.
Which is really cool. I really liked it.
Space Marines.
It had that same problem of the storyline's just not very good. It's like, what should we do now? We shall do what the Emperor tells us. That's like half the game.
Yeah, that's about right. But then again, most shooter games are kind of about the whole go over here, shoot these things, wait for orders to go to another place and shoot things there.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
So it's kind of nice to have a game that's self-aware where it's like, what do we do now? We wait for orders.
This is a game that came out like a couple of years ago. Warhammer Armada? No, Gothic Armada. And the very opening of the game, there's a battle that goes bad, and I think somebody's trying to run away from the battle, and you get orders from like the Inquisition to destroy the ship, and you're like, okay, you blow up that ship. And then the Inquisition blames you for the loss of the battle, so then they torture you. You have to survive the torture, and if you survive the torture, then the Inquisition's like, well, you prove yourself to the Empire. You get a new ship. I was, what? Okay. Can you cut me down now? This hurts. But yeah, I like, and last thing I'm going to touch on, because I'm running out of time now, is the orcs. Because the orcs were the enemy in, not Rogue Trader, but like the first major set they came out with. It was Space Marines versus orcs. And the orcs have weird checkerboard patterns, like they talk in Cockney accents. They're raw! But their deal is they're space spores.
Huh.
So they blow up a planet, like they conquer a planet, they somehow screw things up and blow themselves up, right? And it just spreads their spores across, and the spores grow into new orcs, and the orcs take over that planet.
Huh.
And they do a thing called a WA.
A WA?
W-A-A-U-G-H, I think is how you spell it, but it's a WA.
A WA!
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 But it's one group of orcs will like start fighting with another group of orcs, who will start fighting with a third group of orcs, and the survivors from that will go fight fourth group, fifth group, and then they'll hit another clan that's like 4 levels deep in doing this, and then they'll fight somebody else, and then that makes this giant war band that just takes over a planet. Because they still want to fight. And they're like, let's just keep going now. A WA is this like ramping up of just orc violence. Which is kind of cool. Because the orcs have like weird metal things, and I don't know. It's visually, it's a very cool world to see sort of the like medieval knight looking space marines with giant bolter guns and all this stuff. But because of how fanatical the fan base is, and because of pretty much just that, just how fanatical the fan base is and the cost of getting into it, I will never, ever get into the game.
There are a couple of times when, like, I'll meet somebody through like a nerd circle of friends or whatever. You know how you meet like friends of friends,
right?
And then I'll meet like every once in a while. There's one guy who will, unsolicited, go, hey, you want to see my Warhammer 40k? And I'm like, I should be polite, but I don't want to. Because I see it, and it's never, nobody plays Warhammer just a little.
No.
It's like Heroin Hero. Nobody plays it just a little.
Yeah.
So, it's It's intimidating, and it also makes me feel bad where it's like, oh man, you clearly spent a lot of time and money on this. I don't really care too much about it.
They're always recruiters. They never just say like, yeah, I really dig it. Like, it's really, really fun. If you seem like you're just like, oh, cool, they'll try to pull you into it.
Yeah.
You should play, man. No, I'm not going to play. I don't have money. You think I got money? I got problems. I don't got money.
Like, listen, I have that money earmarked for a completely separate stupid purchase, so no.
I don't really have those stupid purchases in it anymore. I have insurance I have to pay for, but not the stupid purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah. That got sad and dark, but it's Warhammer, so...
It's Warhammer, so it's fine.
Yeah, so it fits. But, like, it's the world's biggest game I will never touch, ever. Like, even more so than Game of Thrones. Like, I have my reasons for not watching Game of Thrones, but I'm not going to dig on anybody who likes it. With stuff like this, it's like, dude, are you okay? Because, like, I know you should be very proud of the Titan you bought, but that's like $500. Man, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't like playing stuff or, like, doing stuff that makes people take stock of my life.
See, I mean, I see these figures, and these are really well crafted figures. I'm not digging on them at all. The people who want to play Warhammer, there's really nothing stopping them from taking like an index card, folding it in half, drawing a character on one side, and drawing their stats on the back.
Yeah.
And then just like using that as like a little placeholder, like, and then you got like a little army of index cards. And what did that cost you? Oh, $1.50.
Yeah. Yeah. So last story before we move on to the wrap up. There was a guy who was playing Warhammer, and what he would do was he would go first. He would defer his turn, let his opponent set out their units, and then he would put his units in the exact place he needed to go to counter the other guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what his opponent did was, because the guy went, he's like, I defer. He's like, okay. What his opponent did was he had an army of nothing but scout bikes. And scouts can go as far as you want in the field as long as they're not within a certain distance of enemy units. There is no enemy units. So he put them lining the edge of the field.
Huh.
Guy number one now can't put out any units because he can't put them past the like line that was just established.
Right.
So he couldn't do anything. So he lost. And there's a picture of the guy who won, like next to the table, huge smile on his face, and in the back, the other guy with the book and the guy who's running the tournament, and they can't find a reason why. Well, act like a jerk, this is what you get. All right. But that's it for me. That's Warhammer. Let's wrap up. Pete, why do you love Wreck-It Ralph?
I love Wreck-It Ralph because it shows love for video games in general, and it shows an appreciation as to how far they've come. It's really great if you love video games as much as I do, and you and your family and stuff. So
nice. And what do you hate about Wreck-It Ralph?
I did not care for the pairing between Fix-It-Felix and Sergeant Calhoun.
Nah.
I don't know.
I will say one of the funnier bits in that movie is the re-wedding scene at the end.
Yeah. when all the other Space Marines are, I guess they were Space Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all all those laser sights just like, not today, motherfucker.
That's great.
Okay, there's one more part I loved, and that was like, oh, she's programmed with the most tragic backstory of all. Like they're completely self-aware that they're video games. Nobody there thinks that they're like a whole sentient being. Like they all know that they're video games, and they've been programmed with a history. And I don't know, it was just great that they told her like, no, we weren't here to witness it. It's just programmed in our memories.
Yeah. I still like it. And who is Wreck-It Ralph a good fit for?
If you like video games, if you're first getting into video games, or if you are like super into games, or I mean, just if you like video games in general, there's gonna be something in it that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's a really good underdog story too.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a whole like training montage. It's actually pretty great.
Nice.
So I'd say like if you like the underdog sports movies or video games, you know what? Just like even if you're not sure you're gonna like it, just try it.
Yeah.
Because you'll probably like it.
It's a Disney movie. It has a good amount of appeal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say it's a fairly universal fit. So Bart, what do you like most about 40K?
I just love the backstories and the like. I think the thing I love the most is the designs, because you have Space Marines that look like you have your standard stock Space Marine designs. They have Space Marines that look more like Knights, and they have Space Marines that are like Chaos Marines. They're all like dark and corrupted, and the like design of buildings from species to species, especially like is always very pronounced and different. Like, I didn't talk about the Tau, but they're a species that came up with and were first featured in a PS2 game called Warhammer 40K Fire Warrior, I think. That was like a first-person shooter, blah, blah, blah. But the Tau's whole thing is that, we fight for the greater good. It's like, well, what if I don't want to join you on the greater good? Then you're going to have to die. Because they wanted to make them, like, new and different and have people, like, intrigued by it, but it still has to be, like, grim, dark, nothing in this is actually good. So if you want to join them, great. If you don't want to join them, ooh. I have Mr. Plasma Cannon. He really wants to talk to you. Face to face.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you hate about it?
I ain't got money to play it. I never want to play it because of how addictive it is.
I can see that.
Yeah. Just...
That's why I haven't gotten into a couple of games where it's like I've seen the fervor that people play this with. I ain't got that pepper.
Yeah. Magic is like there's a comic out there about magic called Cardboard Crack, and that's what it is. That's what it is.
I've never heard of it, but I love that title.
Dude, it's so addictive. It's awful. I never it's one of those I will never play this because the amount of money you have to sink into it to be considered passing is ridiculous. The paintings look really cool. When you see a well-painted army, it looks amazing because of it's one of those things that you can zoom in on one specific thing and it's so detailed even at that level versus just looking at a whole army. It's like a kid's book where there's feathers and buttons and sands and stuff, but if you look really carefully you can see other little figures and stuff. Really cool. Heck no. No.
Alright, so who's 40K a good fit for?
If you like board games and you don't have friends and you hate your wallet, go for it. I know I'm being very rough with this thing, but it's like drugs. I'm not going to play around. No.
So, anybody out there looking into getting into 40K, just please play responsibly.
Yeah. If you want to get into it, you probably already know about it. You're probably already going to get into it. And you've probably gotten into it when you're 15, 16, 17. I don't hear about many people who get into it later in life. It's people who get into it and get super addicted and then they sort of back off.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for me, and that is it for us.
Yes. Next week is going to be the letter X. Bart, do you know what you're going to talk about?
I might talk about Xevious, which is a shoot 'em up that came out a while ago. I might talk about Xenomorphs, which is the Alien franchise, or the aliens from the Alien franchise. I probably won't cop out and do X-Men. Pete, what are you doing?
I might do Xena Warrior Princess, actually.
Ooh. I was honestly expecting you to do X-Men, so this week I was like, maybe if I do Wolverine and the X-Men, I could block Pete from doing it next week. But
Nah,
I want to try to do something that's not X-Men. I want to stretch my legs a bit.
yeah, so that's why I kind of like tried to dig back into my memories. Like, what are some of my earliest X memories? And so Xena.
Yeah, nice. And that is it. Ooh, maybe Triple X.
The movie Triple X Day of the Union or the pro wrestler Triple X?
That's Triple H.
Oh, duh. Yeah. My bad.
No, let's talk about the movie Triple X, the first one with Vin Diesel.
Oh, nice.
I love this. And he gets ripped out of the plane. As always, thank you to OK Go for the use of their song Here Goes Again off the album Oh No, You Know Them, You Don't Know Us. Yeah, I think that's about it for us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone, and you're all great. Bye, Sponch.
Bye, Sponge.
I'm high on the sponge!